Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Monday, July 26th, 2021. Yesterday, I put this article out in video form. It was about 8 minutes long. I said I was going to come back on and go more in depth with that today, of course, because this is huge news, and just everything that is going on right now is literally beyond any comprehension of mine. I don't understand how we got here in such a quick amount of time. I mean, I do, of course, understand because obviously, but I don't at the same time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand how, with the MK Ultra mind control, the programming, the years and years and years of emotional abuse, physical abuse, propaganda, just people being apathetic, lazy, you name it, etc., etc. Go on for days about that. But also, I just can't seem to really comprehend how it happened so fast. Like, because I mean, there was a point in time, like within the last couple years, where people, you'd get to a certain point and then you would start pushing back. But now, nobody's pushing back on anything, on any level whatsoever. Well, people are in the world, other countries are protesting, but the United States, for the most part, is silent. People are afraid of getting out there and, standing up for anything. Actually, you're afraid to be labeled even though we don't identify with any of those groups, because those groups are all created, CIA, whatever. But I guess the fear now is that people aren't really speaking up about the whole jabbing situation as much in their individual lives, because they don't want to be labeled a QAnon terrorist, Trump supporting, whatever they would say, right? The whole point of the QAnon, the whole point of the Trump presidency was for them to be able to do this, and now we are seeing the culmination of that. Every single day, they're slapping so many labels on, and they can now marginalize large groups of people. Like in other countries, they can't. Sorry, I'm smoking at the same time. They can't do it like they can here, because other countries, you can't just separate people into two teams. Here you can. They got half the country against the other half. In other countries, there's too many smaller groups, and the propaganda is not as successful, or theirs isn't as good as it is in the United States. But something about our country, people are just not even getting out there at all whatsoever. And it's harder to marginalize people in those other countries, but here they can say, oh, you're either unvaxxed or vaxxed. Now, it was right or left, and now they got everybody all screwed up on all sides, and it's crazy. It's crazy. My cigarette went out. I heard people at work talking about all this stuff. Not what we talk about, of course. They talk about, the other stuff, but, you got this kind of stuff going on here, and we're going to read this again, actually. Okay, DHS training course prepare for mass public quarantine of unvaccinated rural Americans. I put this out yesterday, as well as in Mike Decker's live stream, which again was amazing. The Department of Homeland Security has a training course available to law enforcement, healthcare workers, and other government employees that will detail how to prepare and execute a mass public quarantine of the unvaccinated in rural areas of the United States. If you are still stuck in the left versus right paradigm lie, now is the time to figure it out. We are slaves and always have been. The illusion of freedom is gone, and those law enforcers are going to do the master's bidding. The training is a horrifying look into our upcoming dystopian future if we cannot open our eyes to reality. I can't stress this enough. I know it's hard trying to wake people up. Trust me, I get it. I've been doing it now for like 15 years. Honestly. Very young I was when I was telling my family things of this nature, like, Kennedy assassination or 9/11 stuff, and then, everybody would just brush me off. Oh, it's a phase. My stepfather told me, he said, a long time ago, When I first got with your mother, I thought it was some phase you were going through. I was like, no, this is real life. I got it figured out young. I was fortunate enough to, well, blessed enough. The Lord, He allowed me to see when I was very young. I'm blessed for that, and I thank Him for that every single day. But all this garbage going on with people fighting over the left and the right and the Trump stuff and this and that crap and the ballots and the Arizona and the pillow guy and whatever else they're saying. People focusing on that is allowing them to do things like this. A Department of Homeland Security training program has provided a model for the federal government and its armed enforcers to normalize mass public quarantine measures despite the fact infections and deaths are dropping in the U.S. If you hear a sound and you're wondering what that is, I apologize. It is the local football team, and they are hitting the sleds. So, if you're wondering what that might be. And this is a website by the Rural Domestic Preparedness Consortium. A training provider for the Department of Homeland Security outlines how to begin rounding up unvaccinated Americans from mass quarantine centers. And we know about the FEMA camps, we know about the converted Walmarts, we know about all of it. We've been screaming about this for years, and people said no, not happening, would never use it, can't see a situation that they would ever use that. Well, guess what? It is done time to be sitting around and going over the right and the left. That's how we got here. People need to get out of that. The majority of people are still stuck in that. This one person's child that I know, I almost said, but it's the child wants to get the shot because the child does not want to be labeled as a right-sider. Can you believe that? So people are out there going to get this thing because they don't want to be labeled one side or the other. And this is what the media is leading people to believe. Like, if you don't want their, mark, then you are a right side domestic terrorist. Everything all into one that we've been warning about forever. Continuing. The 8-hour instructor-led course is designed to provide the knowledge necessary to begin planning for situations requiring the isolation and quarantine of a large portion of a local rural population. This training will provide public and private sector emergency managers, community policymakers, public health, and public safety personnel with the general knowledge necessary to begin planning for situations requiring the isolation and quarantine of a large portion of local rural population. A rural community's ability to collectively respond to an emergency requiring isolation and quarantine is not only essential to minimizing the negative impacts to their community at risk, but also to minimizing the long-term negative economic and health effects on the American public as a whole. And you know what? This is straight out of Agenda 21. First they, quote, quarantine, you mean indefinitely detain people, get rid of who they want, and migrate the rest of those people and displace them and force them into the cities. Force you off the rural land. What do you mean? What do you think all this rural talk is about? It's not about, the areas are spread out in COVID. No. This is about getting you off of the land. And then it basically just says, do you think those badged enforcers who literally keep the masters and ruling class protected by enforcing their will are on our side? Which just keeps going on with the fact that if you believe that the police are on our side in any capacity, no matter who it is, or who your relative who's on the police force is, they do take an oath to the Constitution, but they also break that oath every single day, and they do what they are told. They don't get like open policing to police how they wish. No, they have to follow a strict book. A code which is tyrannical to all of us. And I provided the link yesterday in last night's video, but I will also provide the link to this today because this is very important and this needs to get out to all of your family and friends now. The Department of Homeland Security is training to round up populations, large portions of populations of American citizens For lack of a better term, that's what this is. You don't need all the other stuff put in there. That's what this is. And they've done it before. They've trained for it before. Jade Helm, they've trained for it. Robin Sage. What was the other one? Garden. Was it Garden? Oh, what was that? I forget now. I'm sorry, guys. It was Garden. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. But anyway. And the next training course was on July 13th. Obviously, we need to continue to use our discernment and critical thinking, but certain things are becoming too obvious to ignore and need to be said if we expect to have a chance at any kind of life in the future. Stay prepared, have a plan. This may not happen this year or even next, but there's a reason that this course exists and is geared toward forcing people into quarantine camps. As far as law enforcement goes, if they have not seen what they are serving, the evil they are doing at this point, their morality is gone and will do what is commanded of them. Yes, I can't stress that enough. The police will only do what they are told. Okay, now continuing with this. I'm sure that was hard for a lot of people to read, but truth fears no scrutiny. Moral human beings do not go around enforcing the will of the ruling class on others in order to keep them enslaved. It's past time it was said. Anyone who comes to toss you in a cage because they were commanded to by a ruler is not on your side. Wake up. And, of course, stay alert, stay aware. And you can get the original source of this article here. I will link this so you can go over this. Of course, this is serious, guys. This is... And when we tie it in with the rhetoric that they're spitting out in the media, which I have a couple articles on that, which we were going to go over. If you tie it all in, this is now a segregated country. Everybody's running around talking about things that happened in the past. No, this is modern day actual segregation. The marked and the unmarked. We can say, because that's what it really is. Those people are marked. And it saddens me to say, because every single day I'm hearing of stories of people who are getting it and trying to coerce others to get it. It's coercion anytime anybody wants you to get that thing. There's no, oh, we're gonna nudge them in the right directions. We're gonna try to, persuade that. No. It's coercion. All of it is coercion. Moving on. Okay, here we are over at the New York Times, our favorite, right? The Delta variant is the symptom of a bigger threat. Mark refute. Are you kidding me? Is it not going to let me read this? Really? Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Hold on. Okay, guys, you probably didn't notice any of that, but I found a better version of the same headline. The Delta variant is the symptom of a bigger threat. Mark refusal. After an all-too-brief respite, the United States is again at a crossroads in the situation. The number of infections has ticked up slowly at first, then swiftly to 51,000 per day, on average more than 4 times the rate of a month ago. The country may again see overflowing hospitals, exhausted healthcare workers, and thousands of needless deaths. The more contagious Delta variant may be getting the blame, but fueling its rise is an older, more familiar foe. Mark hesitancy and refusal, long pervasive in the United States. Were a wider swath of population marked, there would be no resurgence of the Delta variant, Alpha variant, or any other version of the situation. Yeah, guys, if we were all just, protected, if we were all marked, we would all be safe and everything would be well again, and then they can get their wish, and, the world would be a better place. And this is what they call it, ready for this? While mild breakthrough infections may be more common than once thought, the marks effectively prevent severe illness and death. Yet nearly half the population remains unmarked and unprotected. About 30% of adults have not received even a single mark, and the percentage is much higher in some parts of the country. So combine this with the fact that DHS is training, right? They're creating a 1930s Germany era environment here right now in the United States, and we are too blind, too dumb, or all of the above to see it. And I'm not putting myself on any kind of, no, even us people who are supposed to be watchful, we are even slacking. I get it. It's hard to go against all the propaganda, and you're literally fighting an uphill battle. But not only that, there's also a tsunami and an avalanche, and the volcano is erupting all in the same day, and you got to get to the top of that mountain. I get it. But we can all look in the mirror and we can know that we're slacking. I'm not exempt from this. There are some times where I'm just sitting in there doing absolutely nothing. And I say to myself, I could make a video right now. Yeah, maybe not. That's the kind of stuff. Right there. Sometimes I'm too lazy to come and put stuff out. That's something that I should work on, to be more vigilant, to try to help our situation. And I challenge all of you, please, at least one thing that you notice about yourself and where you are lacking, and how you can, because you can't even say you don't. We all do. We're human beings. It's our nature, of course. Just take one thing and then try to work on that. You would be surprised what an individual is capable of. Trust me. Trust and believe when I tell you this. Okay, let's see. America is one of the few countries with enough marks at its disposal to protect every resident, and yet it has the highest rates of mark hesitance or refusal of any nation except Russia. A lot of comparisons to Russia nowadays. Public health experts have fruitlessly warned for months that the situation, any version of it, would resurge if the country did not mark enough of the population quickly enough. Bill Hainage, public health researcher at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, predicted in January that Florida might have a rough summer. Now 1 in 5 new infections nationwide is in Florida. Oh, you call that a prediction? Here's a prediction for you. I remember a certain somebody that predicted in January of 2020 that there was going to be a pandemic of sorts. And that person is now blacklisted off of YouTube. And yeah, most accurate prediction I've ever heard since, Bill Cooper's 9/11. But neither here nor there. True, the speed and ferocity with which the Delta variant is tearing through Asia, Europe, Africa, and now North America has taken many experts by surprise. It now accounts for about 83% of the infections in the United States. But Delta is by no means the wickedest variant out there. Gamma and Lambda, whatever that is, are waiting in the wings. Oh yeah, so they got them ready to go. Ready to go, guys. Just, all right. As soon as this Delta 1, we run its course, boom, throw the Gamma. How about the Theta? Oh, what about the Alpha Omega? Oh yeah, that's going to be the big one. Yeah, when the real Alpha Omega comes, they're going to be, every knee shall bow. We just got to remember that. No matter what it comes down to. The United States will be vulnerable to every one of them until it can immunize millions of people who now refuse to get the mark, are still persuadable but hesitant, or have not yet gained access. The unmarked will set the country on fire over and over again. Well, you see how they're talking about us now. And this is only going to get worse. DHS is training. The media is marginalizing a complete half the population. All they needed is half the population. That's how communists always work. They need at least half. To go against the other half, then they can conquer the whole. You would think, living in the United States in 2021, we would have learned from all of this based on, history that we were all taught. Even though it was watered down, we know how things happened. But we sit here and we let it happen in our own country, in our own time. Just goes to show the world has not changed that much, no matter what they tell you. They'll tell you it's a new world. They'll tell you that we're, the smartest and we're the most knowledgeable we've ever been. And we know the most because we're in the future. Every society has thought that. Of course. I can't. I just don't get it, is all. I'm starting to lose a little faith. I thought, people seeing how people like me and others like me and people like you have been predicting every single move that they would make months in advance. But they refuse to open their eyes. I don't get it. I don't get it. Let me go ahead and keep going here because I want to get to some other stuff. Excuse me. Okay, let's see. And they will not be the only ones who are signed. Marked people will be protected from severe illness and death, but there may be another consequence. Already in some communities, they are being asked to wear masks indoors. If the numbers continue to soar, the restrictions that divided the country before may return. So that they're threatening us now. Workplaces may need to close again and schools too. We knew this was going to happen. Oh, you better go get your shot. We're going to bring back all the restrictions and people get mad at us, but they don't get mad at the people calling the shots. How is that? That's the part that I don't get. Like, and the more division they sow doing that, the more people are going to argue and try to shame or even attack other people into going to get there. And we got the practice for it, right? With the whole mask thing. Oh, yeah. I really don't. I don't understand what's going on at all. Let me see what's happening down here. No, we're actually good. Okay, and some number of marked people will become infected. Breakthrough infections were expected to be vanishingly rare with the original, but recent data suggests there may be less so with the Delta. It is roughly twice as contagious as the original, and some early evidence hints that people infected with the variant carried the virus in much higher amounts. Then what's the point of the... Quote, the larger the force of infection that comes from the situation in unmarked populations, the more breakthrough infections there will be. And you all know that I'm taking a risk by running this type of video because I fully expect them to take this down. Really, I do. So please download it. The grim redux has glaringly obvious solutions, shots in arms, but short of a federal mandate, or a patchwork of mandates by municipalities, hospitals, colleges, and businesses, it's hard to see how enough Americans will be marked to form a buttress against the situation. So, talking about federal mandates, that people said for months and still continue to say, oh, the government already said that they weren't going to do that. How many times have they said they weren't going to do something and did exactly that? Too many to count. I really don't. I don't know what else to say. There's not much else you can say about this stuff. It is getting really freaky out there. It's getting really freaky out there with all this stuff. After a brisk marking campaign in the spring, the pace has slowed to about 537,000 per day. Jeez. According to data gathered by New York Times. Some responsibility for the lag lies with the frank refusal of conservative leaders, often Republicans, to champion the marks. Yeah, so they're playing the left-right again, and if you don't get it on one side, then you're on the other side. They want people to pick a side. They need people to pick a side. They really do need you to pick a side so they can then do what they gotta do. Here's where we come in, guys. Ready for this? But misinformation, an epidemic all its own on social media, emanates from all parts of the cultural spectrum. There is no single reason why so many Americans remain unmarked. It's a hydra-headed problem. Yeah, talking about it like it's a problem that needs to be solved, and how do we solve this problem? Yeah. And then after that, they'll be talking about the problem of overpopulation again. And then somebody somewhere is gonna, flip a little switch. And then terrible things will happen. That's where this is going. Of the 39% of adults who are unmarked, about half say they are completely unwilling. But even within that group, some say they would comply if required to do so. So people are already admitting that if they were required by the government, then they would go and do it. Which, of course, goes back to the phases that I've been talking about for months. And if you don't believe me, go back on my older videos where I was talking about the phases. We're about to be in phase 3. We're at the end of phase 2, beginning of phase 3 right now. And once that mandate comes and all those people go, there's only going to be about 3% of us who are left who are unmarked. That's when the fun starts with the whole DHS training. It's literally so simple to see. A 2-year-old can connect the dots. I'm about to go pick up my nephew and he will connect the dots right now. Some are hesitant and may come around with the right persuasion from people they trust, while others plan to be inoculated but say they have just not had the chance. And that part, people they trust, remember when they were talking about bringing all the churches and preachers and stuff into it to get people that we trust? Politics is a driver for only some of these people, noted Dr. Richard Besser, a former director of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. In New Jersey, where he lives, the rates vary drastically because of socioeconomic factors. In mostly white Princeton, 75% of adults are immunized versus 45% in Trenton, just 14 miles away, which is heavily black and Latino. Quote, both are strong Democratic areas, so it's really important to break things down and address the issues that are impeding marked progress in each segment of the unmarked population. They're running this like a military operation, is what this feels like. And they're about to turn up the heat, I'm telling you. The time for games is over. We can no longer do that. We can no longer sit around and do nothing. This is too far. Still, there is no doubt that political divide is playing a role in rising infection rates. From the start, marks in counties that voted for Donald Trump lagged behind those in counties that voted for Joe Biden, and the gap has only widened from 2 percentage points in April to nearly 12 points now. Blah, 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 blah. You gotta pick a side. Gotta pick a side. What about us people who say both of those people are puppets, and we see through all of that and we don't partake in any of that shenanigans, the show, which is American politics? Literally a joke. It fit right in on their stupid television shows because it's just as bad and just as terrible acting. You can really see through a lot of these people. But this is why they play this. This is why they ran the QAnon operation. This is why they ran all of it. And look down here, we'll just skip down because I got other stuff I want to read. All of a sudden, even getting out of the situation became a left versus right issue. Yes, as planned by you. Again. There's also something else that I'm going to bring up in this video. I haven't brought it up in a while. And last time I brought it up, I only had about 600 subscribers. So there's a lot more new people here now. It's all something we've heard before. I'll get to it toward the end of the video, if I still have it. But basically, we'll just read this last paragraph for this one, and we'll move on to the next article, and so on and so forth. All of these leaders and many more will need to repeat mark affirmations often enough to persuade millions of people To overcome their hesitation, the Delta variant is thriving amid American discord. The marks are the remedy, not just for this variant, but all those yet to come. Oh, yeah, for all those yet to come, huh? You know something we don't? Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? Moving on. Alright, we're going to take a stab at this one before I start bringing up stuff that'll get this video taken down. If it's not already. If you're still hearing my voice, it is a good day. If not, I've been taken down. Oh well. Okay, this is from Business Insider. The Delta variant could make the American shopper go back into lockdown. B of A says. Okay. The Delta variant could hurt the American shopper and the economy. As the variant surges, economists predict a pullback in spending given concerns of catching it. They cited Michigan, where spending declined after February's wave, despite no change in restrictions. Something may be changing in the American economy for the worse, and it's because of the Delta variant. Ooh, almost said the word. At least that's what Bank of America research thinks. Yeah, Bank of America research. Get out of here. The stock market had a major wobble on Monday, July 19th, as the data on the variant, and how many Americans it's rapidly infecting, challenged economic thinking around the reopening boom, led by consumer spending, and a signal of how seriously the mood change previously marked skeptical Republican politicians and Fox News hosts reversed themselves, urging more Americans to get marked. Still playing the left-right game, and now your right-siders are telling you to go take the mark. So why all the blind allegiance still? And some people are coming around, I will give them that. But for the most part, what I see, people are still riding on that train. The American shopper emerged from lockdown to lead the recovery, but that's now at stake. B of A economists Stephen Juneau and Anna Zhou wrote in a Friday note that the variant is likely to lead to a shift in consumer behavior going forward, citing a 351% surge in the moving average of daily cases since July 21st. Accompanied by slowing mark rates, they said they believe the current surge in cases could lead to a sharp pullback in services spending. And they give you a little graph here and basically saying that the economy is going to start tanking because of the unmarked. That's where it's all leading, by the way. That's why I brought this up. Juneau and Joe wrote that the most vulnerable part of the economy from another situation wave would be the leisure and hospitality sector, which notably added 343,000 payrolls in June, 40% of the total 850,000 jobs again. Another factor they are concerned about with the Delta variant is the lack of government aid. When the situation first hit, Americans received stimulus checks and other benefits from President Donald Trump's CARES Act, then another Trump stimulus in late 2020, and finally President Joe Biden's American Rescue Plan. But another isn't being discussed. The $4 trillion infrastructure proposal Biden wants to further stimulate the economy is at risk of being watered down in bipartisan negotiations. Of course. Once they figure out where they want all the big money to go, and then we can add the last, 2% among all of us and get a $1,000 check, that people will be really happy about and piss away in 2 seconds on stupid stuff. Because that's what happened with the others. Instead of, preparing, food storing, water storage. No. Absolutely not. Crazy. Since governments seem unlikely to implement fresh restrictions as cases rise, the economists predict that most states will likely respond to the surge in infections by pushing people to get marked, meaning that shifts in consumer behavior will determine how Delta affects economic activity, and experiences during prior waves may not offer the best guide. And this is basically it for this one from a worldwide perspective. B of A's Ethan Harris wrote several countries are experimenting with permitting or not permitting high-risk activities, and overall sees Delta as a moderate headwind to global growth. Okay, and given that, Biden officials are considering adopting stricter mask guidance. As the variant continues to spike, the consumer led American boom coming out of lockdown could go back into some form of it. Yes, because of those pesky anti markers, right? It's all our fault. It's your fault that the government is coming down on everybody. Think about that. That's what these people are saying. Let's move on. All right, more modern propaganda for the marginalization and segregation of American people by half. Take a look at this one from the Atlantic. Marked America has had enough. They've had enough of us, guys. In the United States, this situation could be almost over by now. The reasons it's still going are pretty clear. Yeah, it is pretty clear because Event 201 was, it simulated a long time for this. And, the paperwork that they had for the project start date and end date of the whole situation says that project will end by March 2023. But what do I know, right? In the United States, and now keep in mind, guys, before I start reading this, remember Klaus Schwab in the book, The Great Reset. Quote, many of us are pondering when life will return to normal. The short response is never. End quote. Keep that in mind. In the United States, this situation could have been over by now, and certainly it would have been by Labor Day. If the pace of Mark through the summer had been anything like the pace in April and May, the country would be nearing herd immunity. With most adults immunized, new and more infectious variants would have nowhere to spread. Life could return nearly to normal. Klaus Schwab's statement in that book totally destroys this entire first paragraph. Not going back to normal, buddy. Get with the times. Here we go, guys. Experts list many reasons for the Mark slump, but one big reason stands out. Mark resistance among conservative, evangelical, and rural Americans. Pro-Trump America has decided that Mark refusal was a statement of identity and a test of loyalty. So there you go, lumping us all in the same group again. QAnon was successful. To them, their operation. So, all you people that fell for that and allowed for them to create this narrative, thank you very much. And if you're not out of that by now and you're listening to me, you're at the wrong place. But if you're still listening after I insulted the right side a couple times, then, well, maybe you're open to the truth, and I would hope that you are. And the left-siders are no better because they're the ones who are, screaming for all of this to happen, and then the right side are the reactionary ones that get all riled up, and then the left side can pretty much do whatever they want at that point. It's how it's always worked, but it doesn't matter. They could have used either side. They just decided to go with the left side to implement all this stuff at the expense of the right. Okay. In April, people in counties that Joe Biden won in 2020 were 2 points more likely to be fully marked than people in counties that Donald Trump won. 22.8% were fully marked in Biden counties. 20.6% were fully marked in Trump counties. By early July, the mark gap had widened to almost 12 points. 46.7% were fully marked in Biden counties, blah, 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 blah. All told, Trump's support predicts the state's mark refusal better than average income or education level. They're going to keep going with this whole left-right thing. You thought they were done with that? They're not done with that. They'll never be done with that. To overcome this resistance, some state and local political leaders have offered incentives. Oh, look, this is all you got to do to the sheep. Free beer, everybody. Free food. Tickets for $1 million lottery. The strategy is not working, or not working well enough. Part of the trouble is that pro-Trump state legislatures are enacting over more ambitious protections for people who refuse marks. They are forbidding business owners to ask for proof of mark from their customers, requiring cruise lines, sports stadiums, and bars to serve the unmarked. Isn't it crazy that we even have to talk about this kind of stuff? I really just don't know where to start digging in on this stuff because it's ridiculous. And you got DHS training the whole time. These assholes run with the whole left-right thing. And the mass herds of sheeple help them by just acting exactly as they were intended to by the psychological operation programming. In Montana, they have even forbidden hospitals to require healthcare workers to get marked. And then they go on again with they keep saying this. Pro-Trump mark resistance exacts a harsh cost from pro-Trump loyalists. What about those of us who don't and never have supported Donald Trump? The dude's a puppet. And I still don't want to get that mark. Then what are you going to say? Oh, don't worry, we got you covered too, anti-vaxxer, domestic terrorist, crazy evangelicals. That's what they say. We read pitiful story after pitiful story of deluded and deceived people getting sick when they did not have to get sick, infecting their loved ones, being intubated and dying. And as these loyalists harm themselves and expose all of us to unnecessary and preventable risk, publications including this one have run articles sympathetically explaining the recalcitrants of the unmarked. These tales are 2021's version of the Trump safaris of 2017 when journalists traveled through the Midwest to seek enlightenment in diners and gas stations. And they lay on heavy with the propaganda in this paragraph here. Reading about the fates of people who refuse the mark is sorrowful, but as summer camp and travel plans are disrupted as local authorities reimpose mask mandates that could have been laid aside forever, many in the marked majority must be thinking, yes, I'm very sorry that so many of the unmarked are suffering the consequences of their bad decisions. I'm also very sorry that the responsible rest of us are suffering the consequences of their bad decisions. Again, no blaming government. Blame your fellow man, right? As cases uptick again, as people who have done the right thing face the consequences of other people doing the wrong thing, the question occurs, does Biden's America have a breaking point? Biden's America produces 70% of the country's wealth. And then sees that wealth transferred to support Trump's America? You see how they keep doing this? People are locked in this type of thinking. Look at this. And then the whole part about the wealth transfer to support Trump's America, which is fine. That's what citizens of one nation do for one another. Something else they do for one another. Take rational health care precautions during a pandemic. That reciprocal part of the bargain is not being upheld. I want to rip my hair out. I can't believe that this is even something being talked about. Like, oh, and don't worry, because Biden's America is home to mark holdouts too. State and local leaders in Biden's America have spoken clearly and consistently about the urgency of marking. Yep, blah, 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 blah. Can governments lawfully require more public health cooperation from their populations? No. They regularly do for other causes. More than a dozen conservative states have legislated drug testing for people who seek cash welfare. It's bizarre that Florida and other states would put such an onus on the poorest people in society, while allowing other people to impose much more intimate and immediate harm on everybody else. Do you see what the mindset does, just believing in all this stuff, and believing that these marks are the cures? It's not that simple. It's not that simple. It's really not. But basically, it just goes on about that, and I'm not going to expose you guys to any more of that garbage, but I will link this if I remember. Let's move on. Okay, so I'm going to read this one. This is from the Civilian Intelligence Network. I'm very concerned about running this one. Of course, you can tell by the title, but I'm going to take a stab at it. I'm gonna try it, so I might be digging my own grave here. We'll use code words G5, graphene, and the mark. The New World Order stakeholders plan to kill you. So that'll be good, right? A lot of truth in today's video, I hope. I went on a couple rants there, but it's needed. At this point in time, it's needed, right? Both the situation and the viral mark, we'll just say, are activated by G5 radio frequencies. In a recent study, researchers compiled data on the effects of G5 radio frequency radiation from wireless communication systems on the SARS-CoV-2 and determined that G5 caused viral activation and increased virulence. Several studies are now showing that the situation itself causes autoimmune disease within the body. In a recent review, we showed that the viral mRNA mark, along with the spike that it produces, can also be altered by G5 frequency radiation, whereby both working in tandem create a situation-like complex of the human cell itself. I'm sorry for the talk in code, but I really have to if I'm going to put an article like this up. I shouldn't even be putting this on YouTube, but I am. This mobilized state would then launch an immune response against healthy body cells, since they now resemble viral pathogens, thus creating a, you can read that, state within the body without the presence of the actual thing itself. Why then would anyone want to take a mark that is intentionally geared to altering the very same body system that's supposed to protect you from the... Yeah. Bigger question here is what the triggering mechanism that allows for the activation of viral, you can read that, from the mark. We propose that this is the mechanism that activates the immune system itself to start attacking otherwise healthy body cells and organs, creating autoimmune-like dysfunction. Instead of body snatchers, you now have marks that have become cell snatchers. Terrifying, huh? Oh yeah. When the situation started in January 2020, a lot of effort went into censoring social media claims about the connection of G5 and the situation. Why? And they did. They went through a lot of that. We all remember that. G5 is not about the Internet of Things. It's a military-grade weapon system. The New World Order is building a kill grid with energy inputs targeting specifically larger areas, such as cities. Their agenda is depopulation, and the bioweapons delivery system are the untested genetically... You can read that last part there. How does this work? And again, I want to apologize if I'm talking in code. Just please bear with me. Try to read around it. If you're listening and not watching, I'm sorry. This is the best I can do. So... Okay, you see, our bodies can act as transmitters and receivers of electromagnetic radiation, or electromagnetic frequency, making us more susceptible to external energy inputs, such as G5. We believe that the mark itself is being used as a conduit for the increased absorption of electromagnetic radiation within the body, and that the marked are walking targets for a mass calling using 5G weapon system. Yes. Truth, right there. Long-term exposure to G5 can result in cancer, endocrine imbalances, neurodegenerative diseases, infection and inflammation, infertility issues, and the miscarriage. Just to list a few. G5 rollout started at roughly the same time as the situation hit in 2020. Yes, remember, they passed the 5G and Beyond Act of 2020. Lockdown after lockdown, we were all told repeatedly to stay in our homes. Work from home, study at home, only take essential trips outside, and stay in your bubble. Was this just a coincidence? Members of European Parliament just recently acknowledged that a long-term exposure to G5 radio frequency radiation represses the immune system by stimulating the uptake of free radicals across all cell membranes, which then establishes an environment favorable to the replication of viruses. They believe the spread of viral infections is accelerated by the irradiation from radio frequency waves, and that G5 was a cofactor when analyzing the present situation. Questions were presented to the EU's Parliament that have yet to be addressed and probably won't be addressed till after the damage has been done. Did the Commission take into consideration the immune-repressing effect of long-term exposure to radio frequency electromagnetic waves before promoting G5 and similar technologies that considerably increase the level of irradiation? Has it considered the possibly enhanced replication of viruses caused by exposure to radio frequency electromagnetic waves? And here's where you can read the document that proves what they just said up there. Because we always back up the facts with the links. I will put this link in there too if you made it this far into the video without it being taken down. Are potentially dangerous radio frequencies higher in our homes? The Physicians for Safe Technologies, a group of physicians and health professionals who compile research on the environmental health effects of using modern technology, state that safe limits of radio frequency and radiation on humans should not exceed 1 milliwatts per square meter. CIN has been taking radio frequency radiation measurements off Wi-Fi enabled home devices since December 2020 to determine if there were any changes since 2020. All readings were well above what is considered safe for the human body, exceeding the 1 milliwatt per meter squared range and falling in the extreme concern category. Over a period of 7 months, we also noticed an increase in radio frequency pulses, an increase in radio frequency radiation strength that could not be measured by our EMP meter. Is the NWO altering G5 frequency to a kill frequency range in order to cause mass deaths? If they are, they're doing a good job of it. And, of course, we got one example of the EMF readings from a cell phone. Of course, so you could see right there that they were... Radio frequency radiation is cumulative, which means our bodies absorb radiation over a period of time. Eventually, the radiation itself can trigger dominant situations that, in your body from past infections to include C19 to become activated, thereby inducing a disease state. Since the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes C19 is also a dormant virus, it too can be activated to cause disease state once more. Radio frequency radiation has also been linked to autoimmune reactions and inflammatory reactions. We believe that radio frequencies delivered through G5 may also trigger viral RNA incorporated into the body's D.N.A. from marks to induce a virus-like disease state in marked individuals. G5 is said to be fully enabled by July-August 2021, in time for the fourth wave. Why are we seeing a huge spike in radio frequency radiation now, specifically starting when marks were being rolled out? Has the NWO activated their depopulation agenda by altering the G5 frequency to a kill frequency to blah blah blah? What other reason could there be? What do you guys think? I mean, it should be pretty much common sense. It really, at this point in time, this should all be common sense. But I want to skip down a little bit because I really want to read something. I will actually link this because I want to read one more thing. I'll actually just read down here a little bit and then I'll go on to my other thing. How does graphene fit into this? What is graphene? Graphene is the thinnest, flexible, and strongest compound known to man at 1 atom thick. It's a good conductor of heat at room temperature and excellent conductor of electricity. Since the discovery of graphene, applications within different scientific areas have exploded, with huge gains being made particularly in high-frequency electronics, biochemical and magnetic sensors, ultra-wide bandwidth photodetectors, and energy storage and generation. Technology such as G5 needs enabling technology to be scaled up. By late 2017, they developed a method of combining graphene's flexibility with terahertz detection, a unit of frequency creating electromagnetic waves, so as to make it possible to connect the Internet of Things via technologies available in G5, such as smartphones. Okay. I will read this paragraph, and if it doesn't get taken down, then I will continue it in the next video. But I want to read one more thing before we end today. And it just doesn't stop at the marks. InBrain Neuroelectronic, a company dedicated to developing the world's first graphene-based intelligent neuroelectronic system, just announced a collaboration with Merck, a leading pharmaceutical company. The aim of the collaboration is to co-develop the next generation of graphene bioelectronic vagus nerve therapies, targeting severe chronic diseases using neurostimulators. The vagus nerve represents the main component of the parasympathetic nervous system, which oversees a vast array of crucial bodily functions, including control of mood, immune response, digestion, and heart rate, respiratory rate, as well as vasomotor activity, and certain reflex action. The vagus nerve is life itself. And yes, we'll go ahead and we'll read this one, because then it starts a new chapter and that'll be perfect. If you're not worried, you should be. This is an attempt to create a new frontier for global medical experimentation and treatment in order to cure diseases, quote, end quote. Using graphene-based technologies, the phrase intelligent neuroelectric system suggests corporations are planning to superimpose their own automatic nerve inputs and responses in the body on top of the body's natural nervous system. To put it another way, they want to replace deficiencies and errors in the natural nervous system with their own catalog of preferred stimuli and responses. If the extreme dangers of this reprogramming are obvious to you, think it through, because this is just one step closer to transhumanism itself. Graphene-based technologies, marks, and neurostimulator biotechnologies are merely the first steps to your post-human transition. I will link this, and if this video don't get taken down because of this, then I will continue this one tomorrow. But I want to read one more thing for you guys. Okay, this is something that we've all heard before. We just didn't know what it was. I found it a long time ago, and this is it's a Masonic creed. It was recently said by John D. Rockefeller, but it's been said for a while. It's like their covenant. That's what they call it. It's literally their covenant. I will read this and then we will be done. So, we use our knowledge of science and technology in subtle ways so they will never see what is happening. We will use soft metals, aging accelerators, and sedatives in food and water, also in the air. They will be blanketed by poisons everywhere they turn. Soft metals will cause them to lose their minds. We will promise to find a cure from our many fronts. Yet we will feed them more poison. The poisons will be absorbed through their skin and mouths. They will destroy their minds and reproductive systems. From all this, their children will be born dead, and we will conceal this information. The poisons will be hidden in everything that surrounds them, and what they drink, eat, breathe, and wear. We must be ingenious in dispensing the poisons, for they can see far. We will teach them that poisons are good, with fun images and musical tones. Those they look up to will help. We will enlist them to push our poisons. They will see our products being used in film and will grow accustomed to them, and will never know their true effect. When they give birth, we will inject poisons into the blood of their children and convince them it's for their help. We will start early on when their minds are young. We will target the children with what children love most, sweet things. When their teeth decay, we will fill them with metals that will kill their mind and steal their future. When their ability to learn has been affected, we will create medicine that will make them sicker and cause other diseases, for which we create yet more medicine. We will render them docile and weak before us by our power. They will grow depressed, slow, and obese. And when they come to us for help, we will give them more poison. We will focus their attention toward money and material goods, so they may never connect with their inner self. We will distract them with fornication, external pleasures, and games, so they may never be one with the oneness of it all. Their minds will belong to us, and they will do as we say. If they refuse, we shall find ways to implement mind-altering technology into their lives. All of this is very important, by the way. We will use fear as our weapon. We will establish their governments and establish opposites within. We will own both sides. We will always hide our objective but carry out our plan. They will perform the labor for us, and we shall prosper from their toil. Our families will never mix with theirs. Our blood must be pure always, for it is the way. We will make them kill each other when it suits us. We will keep them separated from the oneness by dogma and religion. We will control aspects of their lives and tell them what to think and how. We will guide them kindly and gently, letting them think they are guiding themselves. We will foment animosity between them. Through our actions, when a light shall shine among them, we shall extinguish it, by ridicule or death, whichever suits us best. We will make them rip each other's hearts apart and kill their own children. We will accomplish this by using hate as our ally, anger as our friend. The hate will blind them totally, and never shall they see that from their conflicts we emerge as their rulers. They will be busy killing each other. They will bathe in their own blood and kill their neighbors for as long as we see fit. We will benefit greatly from this, for they will not see us, for they cannot see us. We will continue to prosper from their wars and their deaths. We shall repeat this over and over until our ultimate goal is accomplished. We will continue to make them live in fear and anger through images and sounds. We will use all the tools we have to accomplish this. The tools we provided by their labor. We will make them hate themselves and their neighbors. We will always hide the divine truth from them, that we are all one. This they must never know. They must never know that a man's color is an illusion. They must always think they are not equal. Drop by drop, we will advance our goal. We will take over their land, resources, and wealth to exercise total control over them. We will deceive them into accepting laws that will steal the little freedom they will have. We will establish a money system that will imprison them forever, keeping them and their children in debt. When they shall band together, we shall accuse them of crimes and present a different story for the world. For we shall own all the media. We will use our media to control the flow of information and their sentiment in our favor. When they shall rise up against us, we will crush them like insects, for they are less than that. They will be helpless to do anything, for they will have no weapons. We will recruit some of their own to carry out our plans. We will promise them external life, but eternal, not external. I'm an idiot. Eternal life, but eternal life they will never have, for they are not of us. The recruits will be called initiates and will be indoctrinated to believe false rites of passage to higher realms. Sorry, I had to check my recording. I think I'm running out of time. Members of the groups will think they are one with us, never knowing the truth. They must never learn this truth, for they will turn against us. For their work they will be rewarded with earthly things and great titles, but never will they become immortal and join us. Never will they receive the light and travel the stars. They will never reach the higher realms, for the killing of their own kind will prevent passage to the realm of enlightenment. This they will never know. The truth will be hidden in their face so close, they will not be able to focus on it till it's too late. Oh yes, so grand the illusion of freedom will be, that they will never know they are our slaves. When all is in place, the reality we will have created for them will own them. This reality will be their prison. They will live in self-delusion. When our goal is accomplished, a new era of domination will begin. Their minds will be bound by their beliefs, the beliefs we have established from time immemorial. But if they ever find out that they are our equal, we shall perish then. This they must never know. If they ever find out that together they can vanquish us, they will take action. They must never ever find out what we have done, for if they do, we shall have no place to run, for it will be easy to see who we are once the veil has fallen. Our actions will have revealed who we are, and they will hunt us down, and no person shall give us shelter. This is the secret covenant by which we shall live the rest of our present and future lives, for this reality will transcend many generations and lifespans. This covenant is sealed by blood, our blood. We are the ones who from heaven to earth came. This covenant must never ever be known to exist. It must never ever be written or spoken of, for if it is, the consciousness it will spawn will release the fury of the prime creator upon us, and we shall be cast into the depths from whence we came, and remain there until the end time of infinity itself. So yeah, that is that is the covenant that they take. The real one that they pledge allegiance to. There's a couple, and this is one of them. Time is very short. Time is so short now. I feel like a lot of people don't get it. I feel like I don't even get it. Like, time is very short. We are one small event away from total chaos, total breakdown of society, rounding up of populations, forced marks. Let's pray. You might not even get this far because the video probably got taken down. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.